If you've ever watched rent payments slip through the cracks or wasted hours juggling spreadsheets, Baselane says it has the fix. One app, one bank, one dashboard. But is Baselane legit, or just another tech promise that falls apart when you actually use it? I put it to the test, and I found one surprising feature that I didn't expect to love. So stick around, because this platform might just replace half the tools you're using now. Alright, so let's actually start where I always start, and that's digging into the real user's experiences. And to keep things fair, I went straight for the one-star Baselane reviews, because if Baselane has any skeletons, that's where they show up first, right? One guy basically described it a really rough onboarding. He said the product seemed perfect on paper, but the experience itself was clunky, with confusing error messages and delays that left him stuck for some days without being fully up and running. I think that would frustrate anyone, especially if you're counting on the Baselane banking app to collect rent on time and you're trying to collect rent payments. So the Baselane support team actually replied here. They said that they'd step in personally, reformatted his uploads, tested everything, offered direct phone support, even connected him with their product team. It seems that they sounded genuinely concerned about the issue and claimed that they were rolling his feedback into future improvements. And from this move, they seem to take those reviews pretty seriously, which I think counts for something. And honestly, a rocky start like that is rare in my experience, so I actually only saw this one. When I dug deeper into Baselane review complaints, it actually became pretty clear that many people are getting some serious value from Baselane property management software. I saw a reviewer who'd been using Baselane for 30 days around and called it incredibly useful for handling his entire property management system. I want to look at a few, but another happy landlord here said that he'd been using Baselane for nearly 4 years after ditching Excel, and said that it completely transformed how he automates rent collection and expense tracking. That's actually a pretty big deal for a landlord, especially if you've managed multiple properties like the old school way and you're trying to keep everything on track in an Excel or on a spreadsheet, and you're trying to get all your data sources to meet in one place. It can be difficult. Baselane rent collection has a review that's actually sitting at around 4.4 out of 5-star average overall, which is solid for something this complicated. So while no landlord property management app is perfect, it seems that that rough onboarding issue I talked about before was more of a one-off situation and not something that happens a lot. Okay, now let's look into the features of the Baselane app, because this is where Baselane flexes pretty hard. So first off, their bookkeeping tools are an absolute lifesaver. I remember syncing up my external bank accounts and seeing transactions automatically flow into Baselane. It categorizes everything by property, plus expenses and revenue categories that actually match up with Schedule E. So that's also a huge time saver at tax time. And the best part is that Baselane shows you clean cash flow summaries by property and category, so you know exactly how things stand month after month. And compared to Baselane alternatives like Buildium, which can feel a bit bloated if you're not managing like 50 plus units and things get even more complicated and more spread out. This just feels more clean and more modern. Then there's the Baselane banking checking account. So when you open a Baselane profile, you can use their banking system to manage rent collections, do bookkeeping, basically every bit of cash movement for your properties. You don't have to use their banking. You could link an external account, but then you have to pay a $2 ACH fee per transaction. Baselane's own banking waives that fee, and the integration is pretty seamless, so you don't have to jump between apps. I personally liked how Baselane automatically separated my rental income from my personal stuff, and making it way easier to reconcile things later, and having that extra account was pretty useful as well. And for your tenants, Baselane built what's basically their own all-in-one tenant platform. Once you set up a rent collection, the tenant gets an invite and can log into the platform to see invoices, pay by ACH or debit card, even set up autopay. I tried sending test invoices, and the process was way smoother than I expected. So even tenants splitting partial payments on a shared lease could pay their own portions without me setting up separate units for them, which can be huge if you manage like house shares. And unlike RentReady, which is great for messaging tenants but doesn't really handle financial growth or advanced bookkeeping, Baselane brings everything into one flow: banking, rent collection, and analytics. Another angle I liked a lot is, I think, their loan program. So Baselane works with lenders across 48 states to offer DSCR, fix and flip, and BRRRR new construction loans, you name it. And the rates are actually pretty competitive when I compare them to local lenders. The app lets me preview different loan types right inside the dashboard, which was pretty cool. Like, so you could use it if you're hunting for leverage without hopping from broker to broker. Most Baselane competitors don't even handle lending inside their apps. Baselane gives you an investor-friendly angle built directly into the app itself, so you don't need to jump between apps and find everything. Baselane even makes old school payment easy. So they have their banking product, right? So you can actually mail checks to vendors right from the dashboard. Baselane prints and sends them to you for $2, or you could actually just order a branded checkbook if you prefer from them. When I tested this, it felt a bit old school using a check, but honestly, some plumbers or contractors still want those physical checks. So I think it's good that Baselane covered that. And if you like virtual cards, Baselane has them just baked in. It's a secure way to issue separate cards for maintenance costs, marketing spend, or anything else, so you don't mix those charges with your personal expenses. So in short, Baselane bundles up what you normally pay for like 5 different tools. So the integration of all those tools together means fewer data errors, fewer headaches, fewer login screens, fewer apps to use. If you're a smaller landlord or an investor who wants to keep growing, I think it's a clean, modern, all-in-one setup that is really helpful with all of the tools you need. But is Baselane perfect? Of course not. The learning curve, I think, is one of the issues that it can be a little steep the first time you jump in, especially if you've only ever used spreadsheets, right? I remember feeling pretty overwhelmed by the categories and all the options on the dashboard, but after a couple of days, it actually became one of the reasons that I really like Baselane. Once you get the hang of it, you have way more control than with simple tools. It's a small hurdle for what you gain on the other side. And when it comes to price, Baselane, I think, is honestly pretty well priced for what it offers. Not rock bottom cheap, but not like sky high either, like some of the heavy property management platforms either. If you're only running a couple of units or a few, it might feel like it's a little higher than a spreadsheet, but once you factor in your saved hours and actually the real money that you'd pay an accountant or a bookkeeper saved, I think it's pretty reasonable. And there are also usually like promos or discounts running. I've linked a few in the description below, so you can check those out. Baselane updates those from time to time, so just check the link in the description for their current pricing plan and the latest deals that they're offering right now. So, is Baselane legit? Well, for me, it solves problems that I didn't even know I had, and it helps with the problems I did know I had too. From like syncing transactions to handling rent collection to previewing loans, it brought everything that I needed or could need under one single roof. If you're tired of juggling these apps or like manually tracking all these expenses or using a spreadsheet or multiple apps, I think that Baselane's all-in-one setup really makes managing rentals a whole lot smoother. So check the link in the description for their latest discount and see if it simplifies your process like it did mine.